that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded. With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 31, then Wednesday, cloudy with a high of 55. Cafe Latte is unlike any restaurant you've ever experienced. Grab a tray and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or cafelatte.com.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday evening. I hope everyone is having a nice week so far. As in Minneapolis, St. Paul, we had some pretty decent temperatures today, and hopefully that those continue. And thank you all very much for tuning in last night. There's people that reached out as well, looking for links to see our episode with Richard Estep last night. You can go listen on Spotify. You can go to am950radio.com. And of course, you can go to GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun on the web and whatever else you want. So here we go. And, you know, this is a long time in the making. First of all, I wanted to I wanted to have a reason to have Maryam on the show for a while. It's been a while since her and I talked and collaborated, and quite frankly, I miss it. I've told her this already. And about a month or so back, we did Question of the Week, and I think I asked the question is, what in the paranormal is it that we do not, that like you want to know more about, that you want to dive deeper into, something along those lines? And somebody put in the for an answer, they said that they wanted to know what happened to lost children who were abducted, children who had any sort of trauma, that are separated and maybe sudden death or something like that. What happens to them? And you know, I know a lot of people, and immediately the first person I thought of to talk to about this is Psychic Medium Maryam Faresh. She has kind of done a lot of work, I believe, in this area, also cold cases. She and I worked together on Myth or Mystery, and she had also been on Unexplained Cases, amongst many other things. She's always thinking of new ways to get out information for people to learn from. And excuse me, I'm getting so verklempt over here. But just to be able to people to learn and understand better, because I think one of the things that Maryam often really thinks about in her role is being a teacher and teaching out and letting people know about all sorts of things. And that is what I always have admired and enjoyed about working with her and knowing her. And I am very, very happy to have Maryam on the program tonight. Maryam, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Hi, thank you. That was such a sweet intro. And usually me and you are just messing with each other and I
Right?
can't say anything. I just have to be like, that was sweet. Thank you.
I mean, it just goes to show how long it's been since you and I have talked, because even I'm vomiting over here. And
There he is.
I actually didn't recognize you without an animal licking you. So, I mean, it's just, and just, this is all new territory for all of us, I guess. So I want to start off. You mentioned something prior to the show starting, and God, it's amazing how out of sight, out of mind something can be. And that is we had talked about the schedule for doing myth or mystery stuff like that. And you had mentioned one of the Thursdays that you and Bruce are evacuated because of the fire. And it's kind of like, for those of us outside of the California area are like, oh, that's right, that's the case. It's kind of pathetic and sad. Not a huge, it's just like, I know that we go move on with our lives, but that's something that was huge and devastating in your area. And it's amazing how a lot of us as civilization just kind of roll with the punches and move on. Meanwhile, everybody in that area, whether you're affected by the fire directly or not, have to deal with that with that outcome of it.
Right. I think it's interesting because there's tornadoes and hurricanes that are always happening in other parts of the world. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. Like in LA, you just go on with your life while everyone else is going through that. Right. It's 75 degrees here and people are, running for their lives because of one thing or another. So it was our turn, I guess. Right. And but it was a pivotal moment because it kind of kicked off. Well, Ryan got busy. I'm running from a fire. Everything just sort of starts to snowball. And it's like, okay, I think we need to you were really sick. We need to put myth or mystery on hold for a minute. It can't be priority. And, but yeah, fortunately that's done. That was an interesting experience. And, everything's back to somewhat normal, at least in our part of a town. So
our lives were on fire, literally, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Savannah in the comments, I think it's interesting, with something like that going on. She says that has to be exhausting on your medium energy too. How is that when you are in an area where people are losing so much so quickly? What is that like for you as a medium, or is that something that it's easy enough to just kind of maybe shut off to a certain degree?
So as Greg's heard me talk about before, and a lot of you guys who know me have heard me talk, my daily practice is imperative, right? So every morning I do at least an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes less, depending on days like that. When the world around me was going through that, I was in meditation a couple times a day to balance myself. And you go through and you cry a lot. You're crying and you don't know why you're crying, but yet you do know why you're crying. You're crying for others. You're watching the news. Like my husband and I were glued to the news because you feel like it's the only thing you can do to help somehow is to cry with people. And so you allow yourself to roll through it. And I make it sound like it was easy, but by no means was it. Ask my mom. I was on the phone with her like crazy, but I seek balance. And sometimes that balance is crying. Sometimes that balance is the unknown. Sometimes, and that's really what's key is, and balance also doesn't ask you to figure out what you're experiencing. It just allows you to flow through the experience. And that balance comes and goes, right? You're constantly seeking it. And then you go through what everyone else goes through. You go through periods of depression and just sadness and, like everybody else. Am I feeling more than anyone else? Maybe, but I don't like to behave as if because I'm a medium, I feel it more or worse.
Sure.
Because I'm definitely not feeling worse than the neighbor whose house burned down, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if I'm a medium or not. There's, thousands of people that are feeling more than me because of what they witnessed and experienced. And so I think it's all relevant,
I like that in the sense of I think that in a medium's position that there does need to be some sort of I don't even know what the right word is, but it's sort of a grace perhaps of knowing that it could quickly turn into like, what, you're feeling this more than I am. Is that what you're trying to say? And that's not the case at all. And I think that I really appreciate you saying that, because there are people, and whether they mean it or not, they kind of come across as a little bit like, oh yeah, I've don't you feel bad? I feel really bad too. I can feel everybody's energy, and it's just like, well, I don't need to hear that.
Right.
I hate that, quite
I
frankly.
think the truth is we're all empaths, and the truth is we all feel. And I don't know that you can say one person feels more than others. Just because someone represses feelings and behaves stoic doesn't mean they're not feeling, right?
Totally. And that, everybody has their version of crying, their own version of crying, whether it's, going out and, building a mailbox,
Right.
or a birdhouse or something, whatever it is for everybody it's a little bit different. Chuck, who has like 16 Myth or Mystery shirts, says, sometimes crying with someone else will help you to overcome what you're feeling. I mean, there, that whole idea of empathy, right? The whole idea of I understand where you're coming from, and I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with that. I mean, I've had so many people that used to, come up to me Friday mornings and like, I'm so sorry what you went through on Thursday night with Myth or Mystery. I'm so sorry that you had to deal with Maryam. That was always something that very often actually strangers actually would say it. So
Oh my God. I was like, oh, wait, what?
yeah, I didn't think you were tracking there for me. You're like, oh yeah, Fridays. Yeah, Fridays. Like.
Well, I was like thinking, oh, you were talking about maybe an episode, one of your shows, you're talking about your cat, and and then you're like, no, it was Maryam. Okay. First off, hi, Chuck. Second off, I want to mention, like, that was a great question that she asked. That was like Greg said, I love teachable moments. That was a great question. And I hope I offered some new insight for you.
Absolutely. It's it's really good. And I think those are things, especially when all this is happening, that it's really good to have those remembrances, because especially I think that it's really important that people know that they're not alone, right? And sometimes, and I mean, I can imagine too, when your neighborhood is burning down around you, that you feel very much alone. I can imagine.
Well, what was weird about our situation is across the street from us is a really large park, and that was a place that they were refuge. They were sending people to, right? And in the same breath, they kept saying, you're going to be evacuated. You're going to be evacuated. And so there's this constant push and pull of, do we go? Do we stay? Do we go? Do we stay? Right. And then at one point, the neighborhood just was silent. You could hear a pin drop. And I'm like, I'm out.
So they just evacuated you across the street to the park? I mean, what?
Yeah, that's why people were so confused. It was such a bizarre, confusing experience. You just had to make the call yourself. It was so weird. Nobody knew. So
That'd even be worse, because it's like I'd probably end up staying to the last possible second. I would need somebody to tell me. I'm the one during tornadoes. I'll be outside and just staring at the sky. Honestly, that's my personality. And as somebody who has lived through a situation where a tornado came to our city, our St. Anthony village, and tore it apart, even though it didn't affect my neighborhood, we did feel alone. It felt everything felt so
eerie.
It was very eerie, especially when they brought in the National Guard.
Oh, wow.
And that's just suddenly it's like, what is happening here? And normality has completely gone. And, for me, just that episode of my life, and I wasn't affected by it, has stuck with me, very vividly since I've been 10 years old.
No kidding.
Isn't that just something how that works?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy stuff. And I think what I'd like to do, because we, this is how we catch up. We just do it on the show. We just talk. People are like, what about the subject of the show? What about it? We're talking. So I don't
mind your own business.
Yeah, right. Who do you think you are telling us what to talk about here? I want to do this. Let's go ahead. Let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll get to what we said the shows are going to be about. And any questions you have for Maryam, make sure you put it into the comments. Also, Maryam's going to be talking about stuff that she is working on right now. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. And welcome back to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We have with a special guest, Psychic Medium Maryam Faresh. We're going to be talking about spirits of lost children. I'd also like to talk about cold cases as well. But before we get to that, let's catch up some more. No, let's talk about some of the stuff that you've been working on that people might want to check out.
So Harlow and I have shifted our true crime Psychic Eye podcast to live. It's twice a month, Thursdays. Our next episode is April 10th, Thursday, April 10th. We are doing the disappearance of Jody Huisentruit. She was a morning and afternoon news anchor in Iowa. She disappeared while going out to her car in her apartment parking lot, headed for work in 1995, and was never found. So I've put together sort of like, yeah.
You're kidding me.
No.
Because remember when I reached out to you in December and I wanted to,
Yes.
that's who I wanted to start with.
What?
Yeah, that's and Laura Headland, who is a host on the station, she worked at that station.
Okay. So I wonder, I wonder if she would want to join, because what we're doing is I'm trying to set these up so
how long of a time do you have for the show? But well, you are also a
talker.
Yeah.
I want to set it up so that we're actually putting pieces of the puzzle together. So like Harlow's going to do all her research, get all the facts, and also get some research from other psychics who've already read it, put it all together. I'm going to read. We're going to try and match some stuff. And if whatever doesn't match up, we're going to have Denise, another psychic, come in and try to fill the gaps. What with the audience's help, we're going to try and actually see if we can put some pieces together and then tell people to share it. And if anyone knows anyone who's a part of the family who's willing to listen, look at what we've pieced together, see if it can help. So we're going to try and do that with when we do missing cases.
And that was the area that I was so I've now taken over your announcement. That's the area that I struggled with when we were talking about this, because I didn't know how to get in touch with the family. You had mentioned like we should get in touch with the family and stuff. And Laura, I think she came and anchored the news after all this happened. So
Okay.
it wasn't like I think simultaneous. I think it was after the fact.
Okay.
And it's but how I almost had an out of body experience when you just announced that that's what you all are working on right now.
Weird.
Because it's like I'm like struggling in my mind. Did I tell you this? Did I tell you that this is where I wanted to start?
No, but also you know that Harlow Harlow picks all of it. I know nothing up until that moment. So this was all her decision.
Unbelievable. That's so I've taken us off the rails here once again. Okay, so this is going to be, you said April 10th that this is going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, April 10th. How do people check this out?
Go to my YouTube page, Maryam Faresh, and 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're asking folks to bring, if they have information, to bring it with them. And then we're all going to try and see if we can put some pieces together.
That's incredible. Wow. That's
cool. A trip.
I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all come up with. And, is there anything else that you wanted to mention, first of all?
No, that's it.
That's pretty incredible. One of the things that we struggled with when we were, because I remember sitting in Chad's office, it was the owner of AM 950, and I just said, I wonder if Maryam would do these cold cases for us like once a month. And he's like, it's a great idea. And then we both kind of looked at each other like, this has to be done very delicately, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there has to be some level of delicacy here. And how do you all approach that when you're doing your work, just in general?
Well, we like Harlow and I both agree that the focus is on answers, not on the crime committed or the tragedy of it. The focus is how can we help? So like we did what was that? We did a murderer's Fox Hollow Farms. Fox Hollow. We did that last week. And the focus was on are there beings here who need help crossing over, not on the case, not on the horror of the story. And it was actually, Violet was there. It was a pretty incredible night. But so that's our goal, is to really stay focused on the getting an answer. And so a lot of times people in the comments will bring up stuff like he did this and they did that. And we just stay focused on what's going to help. If this family were to ever see this, what would help them? What could we say or do that would be helpful to them, not just reiterating what's already been out there or using it as a way to, you know, uh, I can't think of the word, but just
sensationalize or
sensationalize. There you go. So yes.
And it's interesting because it's hard not to, I would think, because especially like Fox Hollow Farms, there's so much there, and it's weird that we're talking about this now. Last night I had on Richard Estep. He wrote this amazing book about Fox Hollow, and they licensed the rights from that book to do the Hulu series.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I mean, these are stuff this is stuff that's really timely, actually. But the idea too is like, I think so many people, and I'm gonna put myself in there a little bit, is there's a little bit of the how did it happen, and there does need to be a little bit more of the how can we help, especially people had said who investigated around Fox Hollow, and mentioned like in the woods they felt that there was spirits there that needed help, that were victims of Herb.
Yeah, we actually moved. Herb was still there, which caught us all by surprise. And we actually assisted 3 beings over. It wasn't funny, but it was funny in the moment because we weren't focused on Herb at all. Like we gave no energy towards him. And then when I was trying to remove these 3 beings, he got in the way and was trying to stop, and I was like, crap, now I gotta, so it was but we still just focused on the end result and how to help. And of course we touch on the story so people understand what we're doing. In the beginning of the show we put a little video together, but other than that, but you know what, you asked if there's anything else, and I lied, because we've been documenting, what's going on in the skies since basically November of 2024. And this Thursday we have every time there's been I would say like a movement, like it started with people are seeing drones, and it went to drones and orbs, and it went to orbs communicating, when it went to orbs changing into drones, and now it's changing again. And we've got like every time there's been this step up, we basically are going live and talking about it, showing the captures that people are getting and talking about it. And we're doing that again this Thursday. So this Thursday, the focus is the Galactic Federation. That has been the feeling with this ramping up of what's been happening. So anyway, side note.
What time is that at?
That's this Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on my channel.
So both are happening at the same, you're going to cover both in the third. Oh no, sorry. This is this Thursday, and then April 10th is its own thing. There's just too much going on. 2 things. I can't keep up with it, Maryam.
I have faith in you.
Yeah, well, thanks.
I shouldn't.
Yeah, right. That's your first mistake. So here's the question. Someone had put the Dead End Collective put into the comments. Perhaps Maryam could define what lost children actually mean. Now, to be fair, I mean, there was a term that I was using in the stuff for the show. Am I even right to call it that? And I guess that's where I'd like to start, because where I believe that the original question came from our listener was, children who, like say, were abducted, maybe were never returned. They never returned live. What happens to them? And I don't know if that's necessarily lost children, but that's kind of the way that I interpreted that.
So one of the things we have to remember, so as you know, Greg, I will always make sure that whenever I'm teaching, that the information I'm sharing is information that I've channeled at some point, or I will channel. I'm not saying I don't read books and I don't listen to other people's insight and then regurgitate, unless it's something that I have myself, which happens a lot with psychics, right? There's always that matchup, which is beautiful. So to answer the question, so something we have to remember is age is something that we have determined and created so that we can track our ascent into higher consciousness ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And so child and adult, an adult who dies abruptly, traumatically, out of the blue, and a child that has that same experience, we're not going to, there's no blueprint, right? There's not, well, children do this and adults do this. That's not how the universe works, right? Every soul will have its own karma and its own decisions and choices. Every soul will have different experiences because of that. Children, those that are hold on. As human beings, we hope for our own sake that a child is treated somehow differently or better on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, we are all treated with the same love, connection, joy, guidance. It doesn't matter how old you are. Now, if this child, just like as an adult, has chosen to stay lost, if you will, right, isn't ready to move on because they are filled with fear for obvious reasons, right? We see this happening to adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
Traumatic situations. We were just talking about helping these 3 victims move on. They are waiting for when their soul is ready to, in essence, turn to the light and travel on. Now, couple things. This is how we are all connected. This is how all of us are connected, whether we are in body or out of body, whether we are alien or human. We are all connected because you have all, I'm sure, watched other psychics help beings move over. You've all watched either myself or maybe yourself helped beings move over. Those beings aren't waiting for me or you or another psychic. They're not sitting there waiting for a psychic to move them over or a person. The alignment, because we are all connected, of when the person in body is ready for its lesson on raising its vibration by being the teacher and guide to help a being move over, aligns with when the being that is stuck is ready to see the light, literally, and to move to the other side. This is how we are all in alignment. So children and adults, it is common that they will remain stuck, if you will, in that repetitive pattern of fear if trauma has been induced and it has happened quickly. Not all. So, for example, we did JonBenet Ramsey.
Yeah.
She's long gone. She passed over fairly quickly. She's been, that wasn't a child that stayed stuck. That was a child that was like, I'm out and
Right.
very conscious and aware. So yes, I'll leave it at that.
Well, it's interesting. So, I mean, and because I think about, and I don't know if you've heard this case, in Minnesota in 1989, there was a young teenager, young guy, Jacob Wetterling, and it became a very famous case, and it remained unsolved for up until, I would say 5 years ago at the most, where they found they actually found the killer finally, and that's at this point probably more closure for the parents than anything that the spirit of Jacob would have experienced. But that's I don't know. I think a lot of us go to a place of like, because we don't know what happened to Jacob, we presume that he is also equally as lost and doesn't, he's, and kind of what you're saying is that even if it is the case, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it stays, that it almost is like the human form, the human essence has to catch up and then eventually will cross or move over.
Yes, but also a lot of times you can compare these situations with human experiences. So you can have 2 people experience the same moment very differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
So JonBenet had a horrific experience and she went away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have these these spirits from last week from Fox Hollow who couldn't and weren't ready and weren't conscious enough yet to transfer over. Just like in life, right? You can have two people have the same, you can have two siblings have the same parents and they both experience very different things or choose very different paths and choose very different perceptions of it. So every soul is different. Every soul is different. And these souls want, just like us in body, ultimately, we can be in a position of being victimized, yes, but ultimately we have the power to make a decision, to choose.
Yeah.
When you're stuck, right? When you have something traumatic happen to you and you're here, like in this stuck place, right? You have the universe here, you have planet Earth here, and you're here, right? Your guides, your family members, your ancestors, they're there. They're just waiting for you to learn what you need to learn to turn around and go. Because and I talk about this a lot with people talking about alien interference. Aliens, ancestors, angels, guides, they aren't going to interfere with your path. They aren't going to take your power away by saying, oh, let me help you. I'm not saying they don't intervene if there's an accident and you aren't supposed to have that experience for whatever reason. I'm not saying people don't experience a car all of a sudden stopping or whatever. Yes, that happens. But ultimately, we have free will. And free will means we have the free will to either raise the consciousness or not within ourselves. And that goes for in body and out of body. And no true no true being that is in a higher rank, can't say that word tonight, hierarchy, will interfere with that choice of yours.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Dead End Collective, I see that you're going on and on about, but what about lost child? What do you mean by lost child? It's ill-defined. Listen, I think ignore that term. It's a term that I used. It's a term that it was a starting point, and I think it's pretty clear that we moved on from that terminology of a lost child. We're talking about, and we say lost because I think that a lot of us put those human emotions on those situations. And so, it's like we're thinking about, what happens if a child is, something happens to them when they're a child, what happens to them, and that there is, we're immediately thinking that there's nobody there to help them. They're lost. So I think that's where we started from. And I think we've moved on from that, and that's kind of where we're at. So I would recommend to move away from that. Don't get hung up on that.
Right. And if this helps too, when the soul leaves the body, it is not the same age. So if the 5-year-old dies, its soul isn't 5 years old. That soul may be thousands of years old and very evolved. So it's so important that we separate that and understand that soul age doesn't equate to the human age.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. We have some comments that we're going to get to, but what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to get in another break here. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation. Like I said, there's people in the comments that have some questions. We'll get to them. And anything else on your mind, we have Maryam Faresh with us. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We have some more great programs coming up this week. We are going to have tomorrow, we're going to have author Chris Carter on, going to talk about his new book, The Case for the Afterlife, Evidence of the Afterlife. We're going to talk with him about that. Thursday, we're doing a replay, Paul Blake Smith, the Nixon Gleason alien encounter. The great thing is now that Thursdays, we won't have another show going over that on some of the networks. So that's nice. And then, of course, Friday is Casual Friday. I'm kidding, because, of course, the Spirit Box sessions, when I do them, they go over into that time as well. But you gotta check out that episode with Paul Blake Smith for sure. And then Maryam, we're talking about this Thursday, as well as April 10th. This Thursday, updates about new information with aliens and UFOs and what the research that you and Harlow been doing. That's on your YouTube page, and you said that's at 6 Pacific time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that means in the Twin Cities here, that is going to be at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the YouTube page, is that just at Maryam Faresh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So we got that. And then April 10th is going to be a cold case that you're talking about, which is one that's nearby to us in Iowa, about a missing reporter. And like I said, pretty incredible, because that's exactly where we wanted to start when we were going to have you do cold cases once a month with us. So incredible, isn't it?
It's weird. Yeah. Well, maybe we should be teaming up at some point again.
I think so. There you go. Now, Chuck in the comments, he says, we're talking about, and I think this is talking about when you're in that in-between, making the decision of staying kind of earthbound or crossing over. He asks, is it a sense of confusion versus clarity to the soul?
Obviously confusion. So what's tough is, if you can leave that question up on the screen for a minute, because I want to keep looking at it to answer this question. When we pass, there's already a moment of confusion that already exists. Forget if you pass peacefully, there's a moment of, right? Never mind if there's trauma attached. So the confusion is going to remain and kind of build itself around the trauma of the experience. So again, just like in body, when you're in body, if you have a traumatic experience and you don't clear it, every day that happens to you keeps building on top of that traumatic experience until you got this thing that's going to explode, right? And you hopefully end up in therapy or whatever that is. Well, with the soul, because it's not having a human experience anymore, it's holding this confusion of what's happened with the trauma of what's happened. And depending on the soul's level of understanding or choice of passing over, it's going to either stay there or move on. So it's not, I think something that is really important for all of us to remember is the universe isn't black and white. And when the soul is no longer in the body, things are not black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Everything is different for every soul experience versus in body, things can be much more black and white, more logical. And so we want to try and remove that logic to try to understand from a more intuitive space what happens when we pull the soul out of body. Yes.
I mean, that makes sense. Chuck, does that make sense to you? Got a couple humdingers here. Let's see. So Savannah asked, what time is your show on Thursday? 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And also Carol asked, is this Cold Case show on YouTube? Can't wait to watch. Here's what you both should do. How can you follow Maryam? How can they follow you?
Go to my YouTube page at Maryam Faresh. Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 Central. This Thursday is the UFO and Mothership Galactic Federation. Then April 10th will be the True Crime Psychic Eye Cold Cases.
There you go. And also you can follow you on Instagram, right?
Instagram or TikTok, Maryam Faresh.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There you go. This is there weren't the humdingers. This is the humdinger right here. This is the one that I miss you just normally I don't go after
harassing people.
we only go after people on Myth or Mystery. Tonight maybe it's your energy that does this, but
so funny when you would do that. Oh, I would want to just cry. Okay, sorry.
The Dead End Collective says, I merely wish to understand what is right there in your video title. So I will not get hung up on this, but this is clickbait, which was unintended.
What's right there? What is he asking? What right there in what title? The title of the show?
Spirits of Lost Children.
Okay, so yes. So what I was just, to make it, what we opened with was a lost child is no different than a lost adult, right? So if a child dies quickly and unexpectedly, traumatically, and a 50-year-old dies quickly, traumatically, unexpectedly, that soul isn't going to be treated any differently. The soul will be treated however that specific consciousness of that soul, whatever choices has been made and whatever karmic lessons have been made. So in the spirit world, there isn't this sense of, oh, it's a child, let's do this. Now, who surrounds the soul as soon as it leaves body may be much more maternal until it really fully separates and understands, I am consciousness now. I am no longer a 5-year-old human.
Yep.
But every soul, every human will have a different experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just hope that I don't get sued for having a misleading title for my show. But we'll give you the number to the AM 950 legal department, which will probably lead to me anyway. So
I was just gonna say, Greg will be like, legal AM 950. How can I help you?
I'll get back to you after I'm done unclogging this toilet. So
as he's Googling law in Minnesota.
Right. Oh my goodness. And then Carol says, how fascinating about the soul may be way older than, let's say, a little child. So it's determined before born what age the soul really is. Don't know if I'm making sense. No, it makes sense. That's a whole other show though, really.
But it's a quick answer. Yes. So
from you?
Oh, yes, even from me. So this can actually help you understand humans in your life. Just because there's a 50-year-old adult man standing in front of you, might not seem very bright to you, doesn't mean the soul is or is not more or less evolved. The two, because a lot of times very evolved souls will choose to come back in what we would deem as a lesser form body, or in someone not as wise.
A radio host, basically.
And Greg's a perfect example of that.
That's what I thought. No, that's good. A lot of people throw around the term contract. Is that applicable to say?
Yeah, contract, karma, same. It's the same thing. You know. Sorry. Don't freak out. People will be like, "No, it's not."
It's very litigious here tonight, so just be careful. Just be careful.
And I thought before I came on, I was like, God, this is such a serious subject. We won't get a joke around at all. And boy, was I wrong. Depending on how much time we have, I can...
About 6 minutes.
Okay, I won't go into it. I won't channel that answer. That different show. But yes, both words are applicable.
Yeah. That makes sense, and it's worth going into further when we have time, because it is very interesting, and you know, I kind of think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, when we're talking about being in that in between there, it's kind of like, if you're loaded with the knowledge before you pass about this, that's going to help you to be able to move on quicker to the next level, right?
Yes. But there's a reason for our suffering. Mm-hmm. Now, as humans, sometimes we get a little obsessed with suffering and don't seem to move out of it. But there's a reason for the suffering. And so it doesn't mean you should stay in it longer than needed. But even in the soul world, the lessons and the growth lives in suffering. Not always.
Right. No, I was suffering Thursday nights from 2023 to January 2nd, 2025.
1 year. It was a year and 2 months. You have suffering, and look at how much you've grown.
Yeah, well, that's what we call it. We have about 3. Carol's like, oh, I hope she comes on your show again. Great show tonight.
Me too.
Not likely.
Oh, again, he has to ask me. I don't know. It's not up to me.
Well, I mean, it would be weird, wouldn't it, that you just like suddenly are on a show and I'm like, how did you get on StreamYard? So 3 minutes left. I'm curious, because we're talking about, you know, don't sue me, lost children, you know, lost people. Someone in the comments, I think it might have been Joshua, who talked about aliens. We know aliens abduct people and keep them on ships and maybe do some research on them and stuff. Do they actually do they actually ever take people and just take them away?
Yes, just like humans do to aliens. Humans take aliens and keep them here forever.
Yeah.
So the game is level playing field. Please don't think that aliens are doing something humans don't do.
And I think that is a really good point, because I think that the common thought is, and I'm generalizing here, people think that that's okay because they are aliens, right? Right. Versus like, don't take our people, don't take humans. It's like, it does work both ways, and yeah, I think that's an important viewpoint to have on that for certain.
Sentient beings are sentient beings. They live, they love, they feel. They're no different than we are. They just look different. But just like on this earth, you have people who kill, abduct, right? Murder. Mm-hmm. You have groups of aliens that do the same thing, but you also have groups of aliens that help, serve, love, right?
Yeah. And I think it's also important. I mean, I just don't believe, like, so many people that I talk to believe that all aliens exist to help ascend mankind, for lack of a better term. And that's not the case at all. Because just because of your point you just made, why would we ever think differently than that? So
we're all different. And especially on Earth, you have to have opposition. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's what happens on Earth. So you're going to have both good and bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once again, those are big conversations that it would be nice to have further, because I think that there is a lot of education that needs to happen in that area, because I wish I could believe the global, like, all aliens want to do, and you can't lump all aliens together, just like you can't lump all, humankind together.
Sure.
We're all different, like you said.
Sure. And some don't have your best interest. But if you go deep enough, that's another conversation. Everyone is here for a reason. So everyone is your teacher, no matter how ugly and dark, no matter how great. Everyone is teaching everyone. That is just truth. We are here to learn, period, end of story. That's the only reason why we're on Earth, is to learn. So everyone is your teacher. Animals, plants, the land, humans, aliens, everything.
And we'll just end with a comment from Joshua that I have no idea what it means. I just meant a lot of abductees claim their uterus was ripped out. So
I don't doubt that.
So I think I've
disgusting.
been missing some of the other stuff that he's been saying, but that's interesting to me. Maryam, we're out of time. So once again, join her on Thursday on YouTube at Maryam Faresh. She's gonna be talking about aliens and updates and what they've learned. And then April 10th, you all gonna be talking about cold case and whatnot. And very exciting. Please go follow her on Instagram and TikTok at Maryam Faresh. Maryam, as always, this has been fun. It's good talking to you again.
You too. It was good seeing you. Bye, you guys. Thank you.
And we will have her on again. We'll be back tomorrow talking about a case for the afterlife. Everyone, have a fantastic night.